It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Today on the 1012 Softball Show, myself, Eric, and Leah are recapping a wild Week 1 of Big 12 action with UCF and Texas Tech winning the weekend, plus Discord questions answered, and we welcome Alexa Langeliers of Texas Tech to the show to talk about the Red Raiders' start to the year and answer some fantastic questions coming up on the 1012 Softball Show. Hey, if you're a Big 12 fan and you're listening to this show, which means you probably are, then you need to be going to charliehustle.com. They've got absolutely incredible Big 12 gear, deals going on all along the month of March. They've got great quarter zips, great sweaters, great hoodies, great t-shirts, whatever you need as a Big 12 fan. They've got something that's not only comfortable, but looks real dang good, available for you now. So go to charliehustle.com. Use our promo code 1012network, TEN12, the word network, and get 15% off all non-sale items. Again, that's 1012network, TEN12, the word network, 15% off all non-sale items. Again, they got great sales going on all month, so you may not even need to use it. But if you want something and it's not on sale, use that promo code. But keep an eye out. We're going to be doing a bracket contest with Charlie Hustle once the brackets are announced on Sunday. So keep an eye out for that. charliehustle.com, vintage made fresh. Welcome to the 1012, the podcast that covers all 16 teams in the Big 12 Conference. We are the flagship show of the 1012 Network. Find every show on the network at 1012network.com. And of course, we are partners with Sports Social, Europe's biggest sports podcast network. I'm your host, Philip Slavin. Thank you for joining us. It is Thursdays, and on Thursdays, we talk softball in the 1012 Softball Show. And the we is myself, and of course, my two regular illustrious co-host. She is the mother of Cycloneers, the trash talk queen of the 1012 network, everyone's favorite Iowa State alum, Leah Nelson.
Those never get old. Every week I look forward to them every week. So thank you. I'm pumped. Lots to talk about this week.
Look, I aim to please. I do. And of course, look, not to be undersold here, but the voice of UCF softball, one half of the In the Circle podcast, and a man who is still higher than high and has yet to actually come down. It's like looking at Pooh Bear taking the balloon all the way up to the top of the tree for the honey. He is Eric Lopez.
Well, I'm not like Leila. It's looking forward to the introductions every week, but that was a good introduction, and I'm feeling pretty good. It's good to be back. Lots to talk about, but yeah, good times. Why? Big 12 softball, baby's back, and it's just as dramatic as it ever was.
Yeah, sure. It'd be nice if, a certain network that had a deal with this particular conference wanted to take advantage of that. Maybe, I don't know, bump some matchups up so that they could be more readily available to everybody. But no, I get it. You got basketball, and trust me, not anything against basketball, but once March Madness starts, Could elevate a few games. Wouldn't hurt you. Wouldn't hurt the viewership and the growth of softball to bump a few Big 12 games up. They're out here advertising games this weekend on SEC Network and ACC Network for the SEC and the ACC. And it's like, oh, cool. Thanks. Thanks for forgetting that you also have the deal with the Big 12 Conference. If you are a fan of this show, be it the softball show, the 1012 podcast as a whole, take a minute, leave us a 5-star rating and a review. It really does help the show out. And look, as much as I love pumping these two or any of my co-hosts up on this show, it also is a nice way to pump me up by leaving us a positive review on the podcast, whichever platform you use, especially iTunes, since they can actually leave a written review. And of course, if you are listening on YouTube, we will post today's guest interview on there as well. But do subscribe, like this video, leave us a comment. We would greatly appreciate it. Eric's right. It was a insane and wild weekend of softball in the Big 12 this weekend. No teams, after 1 week of conference play, there are no teams undefeated. Everyone has a loss. That's crazy alone. You throw in some of the series we had and the way that they went down, I mean, it just all over craziness. You had insanely close games between Arizona State and BYU, and Arizona State winning that series in some very dramatic fashion. Called out at the plate. That was actually the winning run that they reversed. You get Kansas and Baylor, and Kansas destroys Baylor in game 3 to take that series on the road. You've got Texas Tech and Oklahoma State having a weird 3 games on Friday, Sunday because of rain. And of course, the series that we have to start off with here is UCF traveling all the way to Arizona for the very first time in program history and doing something else that they had never done before, winning a series over a top 10 opponent. That is, of course, why Eric is flying high. All the discords, the Softball 365, every other discord, the Wide Right 90 Light discord, which we've got a 1012 channel in. Everyone's like, well, Eric, gotta have to hear about Eric this week and see what he has to say. And shout out, Eric. I had multiple people on social media who were tagging you, talking and praising UCF's productions, praising you being on the call. Like, Eric, I know UCF softball is the team that won, but you're like the talk of the town right now, man.
I mean, I wasn't hating it. I appreciate it. No, listen, our production crew is awesome, and I'm glad that they're getting the recognition, and my broadcast partner, Alex Powers, as well. We got to get her on the show maybe at some point when she's not doing 100 sporting events like she does. She's fantastic. I want to talk to her about her this weekend. I'm going to make a pitch to get her on the show here. But listen, that series was nuts. And to your point, historic for UCF. They've never played there. They've never won a series, a weekend series against the top 10 team. That was a first. And to do it against that program at that place, the way they did it with young pitching, containing that explosive Arizona offense, which, my goodness, I've watched them a lot this year. In my opinion, and I know this might cause some controversy, I think Arizona has the best outfield in the sport. With the help Dakota Kennedy, who returned this past weekend from the finger injury she suffered opening weekend against Washington, Reagan Shockey, and then Altmaier, who's having a monster year. I mean, they are lethal in that offense. And UCF pitching held them to 5 for 22 in the 2 wins. That's how they were able to do it. Isabella Vega, the freshman, goes 5+ innings to get the win on Friday. And then the Big 12 pitcher of the week for the second time, and a bigger accolade, a previous guest on this show, Caitlin Felton. That's the bigger accolade, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
In her role, the high leverage role, you talked to her about her role last year, when you had her on the show. Coming in for Vega on Friday to get the save, contain that Arizona offense, comes in on Saturday to get the win. And UCF's offense coming around. Beth Damon with a home run. Ashley Griffin, 2 home runs on the weekend. Aubrey Evans with a Stormy Kotzelnick's having a great year. The UCF's offense, they had 17 hits against Arizona pitching in the Saturday win, which included Devin Netz, by the way, who pitched both Friday, Saturday. It wasn't like Arizona was not throwing their best arm. So it was a big statement win for that UCF young team. Credit Arizona Sunday, as you would expect, came out and got a game and took it to them. But huge for that young UCF team to get that series win, get ranked in the polls that actually pay attention to the sport, and that's D1 softball and Softball America. The other two polls clearly are watching basketball instead. But credit to them to get that series win against Arizona. That won't be forgotten anytime soon.
Like, look, there's two polls that matter. We talk about them all the time. They're the ones that matter. Leah, what were your thoughts on the UCF series win over Arizona this weekend?
I was just expecting Eric to be texting us the whole time because I knew he was probably so hyped. But
I was too shocked. I was too shocked to text. You're right. I just was in shock. I was frozen. I didn't know what to say. It was unbelievable.
Words couldn't even come out. But I was so pumped. I mean, we talked about it the week before on how UCF was going to show up. Were they going to walk into Arizona and be completely starstruck and in awe and not know how to play against this massive, insane team? Or were they going to walk in, chip on their shoulder, nothing to lose? And I was pumped to see them walk in that way because UCF is a great team. And to be able to come out first week of Big 12 and not just win one game against Arizona, but take the series, it's pretty impressive. And I'm just excited to watch them the rest of the season. And like you said, Eric, they're young pitching staff. Like, young pitching staffs don't do that against offenses like Arizona. It is so impressive. And to think that UCF has them for many more years, I'm pumped for where the Big 12 is going.
Well, and the thing that was impressive, hey, it's one thing if you take a game, right? Like, okay, that happens. Arizona jumped on them on the second game, 2-0, first inning. You're thinking, oh, here we go, right? Because Caitlin Lowe, and I like Caitlin Lowe, she's a friend, but she was talking on the post game on Friday about how they weren't ready and they weren't prepared and all. It was basically saying, oh, we were flat, basically. Which, okay, you're making it sound like it was you and not the team that beat you. Well, and they jumped on them in game 2. Well, UCF said, oh yeah, we're going to respond right back. Scored 2 runs right away. Aubrey Evans with a 2-run homer. Arizona retook the lead. UCF responded. They responded and took game 2 on Saturday, which had a lot of drama. I'm sure everybody was talking. I mean, I had like 5 to 10 head coaches each text me like, "What's going on there in the 7th inning with Coach Paul Malone and Caitlin Lowe with the umpire there and the alleged illegal substitution of Taylor Kittleman re-entering in right field, which Coach Paul Malone, by the way, has done almost every game this year. So it's not like this was a foreign thing. So my interpretation, based on knowing that, is that the umpire probably forgot to write it. But that's a whole other story on that. But they've responded and got a win. And they won the series. And that's what, to me, was the statement. If you win one game, hey, good, it's still great, but, okay. But now you won the series. And that was the big takeaway. To me, I was more impressed by the second win than even more so than the first.
Same.
Yeah. No, because the first one, UCF just got up on them. And you're like, can they hold on here? We've seen Arizona come back so many times from getting down, and they didn't. You're like, okay, well, that's going to happen. UCF battled with them on Saturday. Because like you said, Arizona goes up 2-0. UCF ties it up. Arizona goes back up 3-2. Then UCF goes up and gets up 5-4. They gave up the run at the bottom of the 6th to Arizona, and you're just like, okay, here we go. Arizona's been in these spots how many times this season where they've come back. They're going to find. And for UCF to hang on there, to come back twice, and then hang on for the win, that was phenomenal. And look, I think this is more of a testament to UCF than it is any sort of like, well, I guess Arizona was a fraud. No. Look at who they beat. Look at their resume. Arizona is not a fraud, okay? This is about what UCF did at Arizona and showed just how good this team can be. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, UCF's now going to be one of the 10 best teams in the country. But when they play like that, they can beat anybody, as we have seen. They're still a young team. They're still highly inexperienced. Don't be shocked if UCF loses a series this season. They shouldn't. And I think you would agree with me on that. But like, we also now see the potential for this UCF team this year. And I think the potential is very high. The other big one this weekend, of course, Texas Tech beating Oklahoma State. Not just beating and winning that series. Weather messed with the schedule. You had a doubleheader on Friday. Completely shut Oklahoma State out on Friday in 2 games. Gave up not a single run on Friday. Run rule in game 1, 2-0 win. Ruby Malin gave up 2 runs in the first inning, and that was all she wrote in the rest of that one. Oklahoma State responds on Sunday, chases off Nyjah Kennedy. Like she started on Sunday, and they ran her off. Oklahoma State ruled Texas Tech on Sunday in a big win there that they needed from an RPI standpoint. Look, I full credit to Texas Tech because Oklahoma State's offense seemed like it was figuring things out. I still think they're a bit inconsistent. But to look, game 1 going the way game 1 did, not terribly surprising. Shutting out Oklahoma State in game 2 as well, with the Riasetto and Kennedy kind of duo in the way that Glasgow ran things on Friday in those 2 games. Again, I'm gonna say that play that series out normal without the weather, and we'll see how it goes. But you still got to play the games when you got them scheduled. And they had to play 2 Friday, and Texas Tech's performance on Friday was very impressive. I did certainly not expect to see them shut Oklahoma State out in 2 games in this series.
Yeah, I agree. And let's give credit to the Texas Tech fans, by the way. Over 2,200, I believe, record crowd sold out. Probably contributed to that Friday, right?
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
That's not something you're used to there in Lubbock. And look, I thought Texas Tech played its best 2 games as a complete offense, defense, pitching that they had all season. And got Oklahoma State to play on their heels, which we've seen at times this year. Oklahoma State on their heels a little bit. It's good, but credit to Oklahoma State, made adjustments, got to Kennedy in that first inning, jumped on him early, which was all Ruby Malin needed. So I'm not worried about both teams. I think Texas Tech's growing. I think Oklahoma State's growing. The one thing I will say, Philip, and we discussed it last week, and Leah, I think you agreed here. Oklahoma State's got to find some innings outside of Ruby Malin. That is right now the big question mark. Where are they going to get innings when other than Ruby Malin? Because you could throw her as and I had her on the show, and she's like, I'm ready to throw every game, but you don't want to wear her down to the point where she's exhausted by the time you get to postseason. So somebody else has to step up. If it's not going to be Riley, if it's not going to be Crandall, who's it going to be? And I think that's something that Oklahoma State has to figure out. But outside of that, I think both teams are fine.
Also, from the hitting perspective, yes, a pitcher wants to throw all the time, but at this level, these hitters know how to make adjustments. And I think that's exactly what Oklahoma State was able to do. I mean, you had so much film on yourself hitting against Nyjah. You had a whole day to be able to watch that film on Saturday. And I'm assuming they probably went to the cages to practice. And then it kind of makes sense on how they were able to win 10-1 on Sunday. So the weather kind of affected it. But I mean, I think it's just tough. You have to have multiple pitchers because we've seen it. It's really hard to win 3 games. It's really hard to win all 3 on a weekend. And so you need lots of people in the bullpen. You need a deep bullpen because hitters are going to make adjustments. And I mean, I think we saw across the whole board in Big 12.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. It's just, like I think it was we thought it was be a 2-1 series. It was weird because of the weather, but full props to Texas Tech. Full props to those fans. I hope the fans keep showing up like that. Like I hope it doesn't just require.
Well, they sold out season tickets. They've added bleachers, talking to the folks there at Texas Tech, so that doesn't surprise. I think again they got the Nyjah fever there. Big for Chloe Riasetto, by the way. I mean, let's not lose. That was a big performance for her in that second game to outdo Ruby Malin. I mean, we haven't discussed the fact that we didn't get Ruby versus Nyjah until Sunday. Friday, they just, Oklahoma State decided to not go with Ruby Malin in game 1. They go with who was it? They went with Katie Cutts.
Coot started and
yeah.
Coot started, and then it got rough, and so they brought in Aycock.
Correct, but Jerry was smart. He had the big lead. He brought in Riasetto to, I think, close that out, then start her the second game, and then brought Nyjah. I thought Jerry and his, obviously, his pitching coach, Tara Archibald, who is his daughter, did a fantastic job game planning for Oklahoma State on Friday there for them. And I think that they're growing, and they're going to get better as the year goes on. And that's why I picked them last week. I thought the home field was big. Like I said, I think Oklahoma State will grow, but they do need to find a number 2 pitcher, whoever that is. And listen, that could be by committee. If you tell me that's going to be, Aycock and Kutz and Crandall to get fine, but you got to have to get some innings out of that Ruby. You can't expect Ruby to start 2 games and then come in relief a 3rd game, but that might be what they do. I mean, Kenny used people reminded me Kenny's not shy to use his pitchers.
No, I mean Lexi pitched a ton last year, especially they don't have a midweek this week. They don't have a midweek next week, and so I think that'll be interesting to kind of see. I think your midweeks are where you're just not going to see Ruby this season. I think you're just not. I don't know if we're going to see Riley Crandall at some point. I'll get Kenny on and I'll talk to him about that. But if weather holds the way it's supposed to this weekend, we should actually get our first 3 games in 3 days and get a decent idea of what the pitching rotation might be for Big 12 play moving forward.
The good news, I will say this, because we were talking about, hey, the loser of this series could be in trouble from a Big 12 race standpoint because Arizona, favorable schedule. Well, look what happened. Arizona's 1-2. So that's the good news. If you're Oklahoma State, you're in it still. You're fine. Yep. Like, this is going to be wide open from that standpoint. So you've got time here from that standpoint. It's early in conference play. So that's, to me, the other takeaway here. This race is wide open between those teams, and Oklahoma State still got to go to Arizona. And I'm circling here Easter weekend, Oklahoma State at UCF. Could be. I get to call that one. At least 2 of the games I get to call. The other one's been picked up by Linear. To your request, Philip. There you go. You wanted Linear. Yeah, at my expense. At my expense. Yeah,
so Eric, we'll just live. We'll just do the show live on the YouTube channel, and people can just watch the game and have us on.
Alternate. Can we? Leah may be my analyst. Leah can be my analyst.
Yes. You know how fun that would be.
10-12 alternate broadcast of Oklahoma State UCF softball. I'm not. I'll see if I can sell the wife. That might just be that week's show to get that one. But okay, looking around the rest of the conference, which other series this weekend, guys, surprised you, stood out to you, is the one that you kind of have some big takeaway from? Obviously, Houston taking 2 of 3 over Iowa State. Houston blew a big lead in game 1. Iowa State got the win there, come from behind, and then Houston won on Saturday and Sunday. Kansas winning 2 of 3 over Baylor, including, as I mentioned, the big win on Sunday. And then Arizona State over BYU. 3 very close games, very competitive series. Eric, which one for you was the one that really stood out?
Arizona State BYU. Think how tight a call reversal.
Oh yeah.
Changes the series. Now, did you feel that was the right thing to do to reverse it?
Yeah, because I had that game on and was watching it, and I saw the play live and I saw the replay and just thought I think she got there. Like I think it was the right call to say that she beat the tag based off what you could see. I think it was the right call because while they were reviewing and you look at it, I was like, I think she got there. And so I agree with the call they made. Okay. The reversal. Yes.
It was tight. And the reason why that was so fascinating, I felt that that's a big series that maybe 2 months from now we look back as like, is that the difference between Arizona State getting in and BYU not getting in? Or, you know what I mean? Like that could be that tight of a series. Big series win for Megan Bartlett and company. And obviously, I'm going to see him this weekend here against UCF. That's a monster series. You look at the RPI. You see, you asked for this, Philip, right? We talked. Yeah. You know what you got at Oklahoma State. You know what you got at Texas Tech. You know what you got in Arizona. But who else would step up? Well, you have UCF, who's at 19 in the RPI coming into this week. Arizona State now 30. I think we've established here who are the 4 and maybe the 4th, 5th teams that can make the tournament from the Big 12. And I wouldn't count BYU out yet.
No.
They still got some games. I think they got to figure out. I feel my concern with they're kind of like Oklahoma State in that they're using Korth a lot. And I want Arizona State starting to figure her out as that series played out. I think they're still trying to figure out some offense, which is kind of weird to say about a Gordon Eakin team to figure out offense, but that's kind of where they're at. But I think those two teams were pretty evenly matched. Kenzie Brown is the key for Arizona State in the circle. Kelsey Hall is a beast offensively. Big series win for Arizona State. And I think BYU got some things they could take with there. If they can improve some things, they could also be a tournament team. So that was the one that stood out to me.
Yeah, we updated the resume sheets, and Leah, I'll give you your chance to chime in as well here in just a second. I'm sorry. Leah, stay away. Look, we updated the resume sheets, and of course, we'll have the link to that in our show notes. BYU's at 50th in the RPI, and what's killing them right now is their non-conference schedule was bad. You got two quad two wins, two wins between RPI 26 and 50 in Arizona State and Washington. Every other Washington's their only non-sub 100 RPI win in non-conference at this point. They lost a game to Boise State. They lost a game to Indiana. They beat Washington. They lost a game to Duke. They didn't do enough from a scheduling standpoint in non-conference to help them out. Whereas Arizona State, who similar record, right? But 20 spots higher on the RPI because they scheduled tougher. They've got wins over Oregon and Cal, and they've got Washington, and they've got 4 quad 3 wins. And yeah, they got a couple quad 2 losses that BYU doesn't have, but Arizona State had a tougher non-conference schedule that has benefited them, even though they've got a few more losses on their resume. And so, BYU's got plenty of opportunity. It's still early. There's plenty of opportunity in the Big 12, as we've seen. The other team to keep an eye on, at this point, Houston's 31st in the RPI. Okay? I get it. I know we all picked them to finish dead last. I feel confident in saying that that's not what's going to happen this year. I think Utah's kind of got that one wrapped up, even though they haven't even started Big 12 play yet. Sorry, Amy Hogue, previous guest on the pod. Houston is in a spot where if they actually can do enough in conference play, it's not insane to say they could get in there too. So every team in the conference at this point, outside of 2 of them, are not out of the postseason run if they can get things around. Kansas, 51st in RPI. So they're literally a spot behind BYU. So look, a lot of opportunity here. I think Houston getting the win in the series over Iowa State. I'm sorry, Leah. Blowing game 1 was tough for them, but coming back and winning the next 2 and getting the series, you don't want to lose the series to Iowa State this year. Now they are all the way up to 89th in the RPI from 111th. So this is a big deal, but it's a big season for Vesely in Houston. It's a big season for them, and the fact that they're sitting where they are and got that series win. We'll talk about the fact that they're going to Stillwater this weekend for 3 games and what might happen there. But I'm full credit to Houston for what they've done so far. Full credit to the fact that they're sitting in the RPI in a good spot. I will not count them out until I have to.
No, they were fun to watch. They broadcasted all 3 games, which amazing weekend to watch, ESPN Plus. But yeah, they were fun to watch. Shout out Iowa State though for winning their first season opener since 2006. So yeah, I had to look it up when I was. Yep, for the first time since March 25th, 2006, Iowa State opened up conference play with a win. That's crazy. That is reading it out loud. That's insane. But obviously, Coach Pink, Iowa State, very excited. And they competed. It wasn't like they rolled over the next 2 games for Houston. And like you said, Philip, Houston's going to be good to watch. They're good.
They're fun.
They're fun. They're fun.
The offense is fun. Is fun.
I was very impressed because, to be honest, last year I didn't really pay much attention to them. So it's fun to kind of Eric's laughing. Well, it's true. Now they're kind of on my radar. And also I want to talk about a little bit the Baylor and Kansas series. I was kind of hoping Baylor would be able to turn it around this series, but I know it's tough. Shout out Kansas though, because they've been on the bubble, they've been on the edge. So maybe this could be the season for them. So I'm gonna kind of keep a lookout for them as well.
So that leads to my next question for both of you. The wild weekend as it was, things feel a whole lot more level after 1 week than I think we kind of thought that they would at this point. We each had different. Eric and I had OSU number 1 in our preseason poll. Leah had Texas Tech. At this point now, with what we know and what has started in Big 12 play, who should be the favorite in this conference moving forward?
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Ooh.
Eric needs a break. He's had to talk a lot, His voice is still recovering from, as he said in his text, screaming around the house on Friday and Saturday. So
I obviously want to keep going with who I originally thought, but I'm going to have to say, despite the weekend that they had, I still think Arizona is going to end up winning the Big 12. Yes, they lost twice to UCF. UCF is a great team. We saw how they responded on Sunday with a large victory, and then they just beat Utah State for a midweek game 8-0. So obviously it's going to be exciting to see what they do this weekend, but I think they're a type of team that will respond really well to losing, and I don't think we're going to see them lose twice in a series for the rest of the Big 12. Bold statement, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking, what my mind's going to. So Arizona.
okay, Eric.
I think it's a toss-up, and I think it's worth emphasizing what you mentioned at the beginning of this, which was there was no sweeps this weekend. You realize for all the hype the SEC gets, they had multiple sweeps. The ACC has sweeps. There was no sweeps here. It's a grind. I think there's a chance this race could be very similar to last year, where it came down to 3 teams. Remember? Came down to Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, Bedlam, and Texas playing at Texas Tech, and how those results would dictate who would win the regular season title, which came down to Texas winning it the day before the last day of the season. And I remember Bedlam decided the number 2 seed the last day of the regular season. I think we could be in that similar situation where you have Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and Arizona all in the mix to win the regular season title going into the final weekend. One thing that's in Leah's favor, Arizona still is going to host Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. That is a favor them. But Texas Tech can say, we got the best pitcher in this conference. And Oklahoma State can say, you know what? Our pitcher's pretty good too, and we got a good overall top 9 that gets better as the year goes. So I really do think it's a toss-up. I'm going to lean still to Oklahoma State just because I'm going to trust Kenny on that. But it's a toss-up. But I think the bigger picture here, all right, Leah and Phillip, I think the Big 12's in great shape to have 3 host sites, maybe 4. If
That's
teams
huge.
I don't know. 4 might be tricky. It depends on how thick. But I definitely think there's 3 host spots here that the Big 12 can get if things play out. I think Oklahoma State's actually doing a great job of that. Arizona's going to be a host. Their resume, you mentioned, 10 wins already against quad 1 and 2s, Arizona. That is tied for the second most in the country behind, I believe, UCLA has 11 quad 1 and 2s. Oklahoma State already has 8, believe it or not. So I think there's a chance that the Big 12 could get 3 to 4 teams to host. That would be just as important as who wins the regular season.
Yeah. I mean, look, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and Texas Tech all have a real shot at hosting. And I think UCF, depending upon what they can continue to do this season, and, those midweek games against Florida are there, at this point, UCF has the ability to host. You got to finish in that top 17 in the RPI. You've got to be 1 or 2 spots out and have really good wins on the resume to be a top 8 seed. As we know, they really care about those top 10 wins. Arizona's sitting pretty good with that right now. They're in their RPI for the right spot, but they've got a win over UCLA, 2 wins over Stanford, who are both top 10 right now. Oklahoma State, they could use some more top 10s. They could use more top 10s to add to the resume, but they've got the 8 top 50. So it's 3, I think 3, yes. I think 4 possible, depending upon what happens with that 16 seed. And I still feel fairly confident that we can see 6 Big 12 teams in the postseason this year. I mean, I feel confident with 4. I feel really good about 5. I think a BYU or a Kansas or a Houston is going to find a way to do enough to get themselves in there as well. I feel I feel fairly
hope.
good about that.
I
know.
think we're going to learn a lot about Houston this weekend in Stillwater. We're going to learn a lot.
Yes, we are. I reached out into some of the different Discord channels that I'm in. I'm in an Iowa State one, of course, one right now the light. I'm in a Baylor Discord. I'm in a BYU Discord, and of course the Softball 365. And I asked for some questions for the show today, so we'll start over in the Give 'em Hell Brigham Discord. Give 'em Hell Brigham used to be our BYU show. Now we have our good friends over at the Hype Train podcast. But I asked the BYU fans, like, hey, we're showed some answers. One of the questions I got, of course, was, are we good at softball? I said yes, of course. But I feel like you guys want to echo in here. Well, is BYU good at softball this year?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. I mean, they were a first four out last year, but remember, they replaced a lot. They have to replace a lot of offense, so that's why their offense is a little sluggish this year by their standards.
It's inconsistent. It's like they have games where they explode, and they have games where it's like we got 3.
And I think some of that is youth and some of the new faces they have. But I love when Korth is in the circle, they got a chance to beat anybody. She's that good. And she's healthy. Yep. Remember, she missed last year. I really believe if she was healthy last year, they would have been an NCAA tournament.
Yes.
That's what called and Glenn and Gordon agrees with me on that. So I spoke to him about that before the season started. So yeah, I think BYU's good, and they got a beautiful setting up there when you see the softball games there. So
yeah, but it's hard to play there. The ball just
from a player's perspective,
and then you're running the bases. So, but it's beautiful, yes, but hard to play.
Okay, well, that's perfect because it leads into another question from the Give 'em Hell Brigham Discord, which was, who at this point, with Oklahoma, Texas gone, who has the best softball facilities in the Big 12 now?
What a great question.
This is a question for you guys because, Leah, you've been to a lot of these stadiums. I have not. Eric, obviously, you've been around the country.
So, I have an answer.
Okay.
My favorite so far to play as a player, Kansas. I know. Maybe it's the 4-hour road trip where all the other road trip. No, facility wise, Kansas, outstanding. Their indoor facility, their cages, we have always loved Kansas. And I don't know. I know that is insane and crazy. And I have to also say Arizona.
I was going to say, that's like one of the most historic stadiums, the renovations and everything.
Well, I've only played there, I feel like, once, and so I didn't get a good Big 12 feel, but Kansas, unreal. I loved their facilities. Arizona, obviously, very fun to play in.
Yeah, I'm going to go Arizona. Probably Oklahoma State, too.
No.
Oh, boy. I'm going to let you. Oh, wow.
Oh, there's fighting words. We're muting Leah. We're muting her.
It's fun to play there, too, but again, facility-wise Kansas is top-notch facility. I think they've got a lot of
atmosphere. We're not talking about atmosphere. We're talking about facility.
Facility, yeah.
I will say though, I was shocked at how empty Arizona Stadium looked this weekend when I was checking in on those games. The outfield seats were not full for a team as good as they have this year.
It's weird. They don't pack the bleachers as much unless it's Texas or something like that. That is interesting. I wonder if that park's too big because they've renovated, added more seats. Because I had friends that made the trip, and they said it was pretty good, strong crowd. But to your point, you're right. Part of it was I think the broadcast did not help them. It makes it look probably worse than it actually is.
Fair enough. Okay, over to our Softball 365. Of course, the link for that is in the show notes as well. Welcome all softball fans to it. It is a good time in there. From OU fan forever, because he helps run it over there. Could UCF earn a host spot? I mean, we kind of talked about this, but look, with where they are on the RPI right now and what they have left on the schedule, absolutely they can.
Yes, you look at it. It starts this weekend. Not to self-plug here, but UCF hosting Arizona State. I get to call that one. Which I'll be honest with you, when it came out before the season, I'm like, all right, it'll be cool. I get to see Coach Bartlett. Yeah, it'll be fun. Now, woo, pretty big. With Arizona State in the top 30 in the RPI, you talk about improving your resume. How does UCF respond from the high of the Arizona series? Can they come back and win a series at home against Arizona State? From a hosting standpoint, that's what you got to do. So I think you'll learn more about that after this weekend's series. But I want to point out, too, You realize UCF has accomplished what they've accomplished at this point with the 8th toughest schedule in the country. You asked Coach Ball Malone, I believe, Philip, when you've had her on the show about her scheduling philosophy.
Always ask Coach Ball Malone about schedules.
And, I mean, they're on track to have the most difficult schedule, not only in program history, but I would argue in any UCF sports ever had. And that's not a hypo. I've covered every other UCF sport. Nobody's had a schedule like this. Well, and it's not going to be easier. You mentioned the home and home with Florida. They got to go to Norman to play Oklahoma. That's the non-conference still. So they still got to host Oklahoma State. So it's if they win enough games, the schedule strength, and that's why she does this scheduling, to give herself a chance to host like they did in 2022. So if they can win enough games with this schedule, absolutely they can host.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly. OU fans, keep an eye on UCF. UCF goes to OU for the midweek game.
Be nice. Be
I'm
nice
sorry,
to
the
them over
weekend.
there. Yeah.
Be nice.
over there.
They're off week, so we'll see. Look, OU fans don't need. They're fine. They're way too mad at our good friend Brady and Softball America for not having OU number 1 in their top 25. So they're way too distracted to be coming out at UCF for any reason. Okay, we've got to look at the weekend ahead. We've kind of teased some of this a little bit. BYU, Kansas, and Iowa State are all idle this week. I don't know how the second week of conference play, and they're all out of conference play this week. Yeah, Iowa State's down in Mississippi. They've got Ole Miss, Samford, and North Dakota State. BYU is supposed to have a doubleheader on Thursday against Idaho State, but now they've delayed that because of weather, so BYU won't play this weekend at all. Kansas supposed to have a Friday, Saturday against Omaha, and now that's going to be a Thursday doubleheader because they're trying to get around the weather. I don't know. I don't make the schedule, okay? Eric's throwing weird looks at me.
Like at Kansas and Iowa State, they were like, hey, it's the Big 12 championships in basketball. Let's take a bye week. I mean,
that's exactly because they could potentially the men could potentially play each other in the championship. That's exactly.
So you set this up, Leah. This was your
Eric,
idea.
you hit it right on the nose.
This is why
exactly what happened.
That's why Leah's going to be like making plans to go to Kansas City. While it's I will say this about Iowa State. That's an opportunity to get if you can upset Ole Miss, right? They play them twice. Yep. You get a split in Oxford. Now the conversation changes about Iowa State there. And I'm telling you, they can hit the ball. And I thought, Leah, I wonder what your thoughts if you said. Well, I know you and I are going to definitely talk a lot about Iowa State next week. I don't know. I don't know if it'll be as friendly as the tone as this one right now is. But did you see promise from the pitching staff against that Houston offense that could maybe carry over to Ole Miss? I wonder. That's going to be what I'm curious about.
No, it'll be. I mean, I was impressed with what they did at Houston. I think the more games those freshmen can get under the belt, the better. And I'm kind of glad they started with Houston because although Houston is having a great program or a great season so far, like it's one of the easier ones that they can get under their belt. Like I can't imagine if they had to start with Arizona, UCF, Oklahoma State. It just, they need more games. They need more experience. And I think they're getting that. And so I'm excited to see how they do against UCF in a little bit.
Yeah, Iowa State's got Samford and Ole Miss on Friday, Samford and North Dakota State on Saturday, and then Ole Miss on Sunday before they get out of town. So yeah, BYU, I had a note to complain about their non-conference schedule, but I already did that, so we can move along from that. We've talked about it. I think the best series of the weekend is UCF hosting Arizona State. UCF coming off their big win over Arizona. Now they got to face their Arizona's in-state rival, Arizona State, though this one's in Orlando. Arizona State coming off of a very close series against BYU. This is one of those series I look at and I'm like, I love what UCF did this weekend. It still feels like a 2-1 kind of weekend because this is a good Arizona State team. They've got solid pitching. They can't hit the ball. Like this is a solid Arizona State, and they've got some talent there. I think this will be a fun series. Like I really do think this is a fun series that goes 2-1.
You're not going to get an argument from me. I'm looking forward to it. I spent a lot of point of notice. I'm spending a lot of time with Arizona State this week because obviously I'm going to talk to Coach Bartlett after by the time this episode is airing. I'll literally be talking to her in a conference call after this show is airing. So, and not to mention they've spent obviously time in DeLand, so I'll get to know them pretty well. But you're right. This is a big series. We've talked about it from a UCF angle, but from an Arizona State standpoint, You win this series on the road, I mean, now you're like, yeah, this is a definite tournament team. And now you're back. And you're maybe a year early as well if you're right? But you had Coach Bartlett on. There a lot of young players on that team. But Kenzie Brown, Kelsey Hall, and Wendell, the veterans carrying this team, they win this series, man. They're on track to make the tournament. That'd be a heck of a year. Probably a year early for Coach Bartlett and the job that she's doing there. But they've got talent there. Coach Bloomer's made an impact there for their offense. So you're right. UCF Arizona State's the series to watch. Fortunate enough to get to call it with Alex Powers on ESPN+. It's a big, big series for both sides because the winner of this series, boys, got to feel like, whoo, we got a leg up on a lot of things from a postseason standpoint.
Eric, I know your answer to this probably, but Philip, Arizona State is your dark horse.
Yeah.
But obviously, we've seen what UCF can do. Who do you have winning this series?
I'll take UCF 2-1. Coming back home, as Eric noted, like I really like Arizona State this season, but they are still a little bit of like a year early. They can beat really good teams. They can also drop games to RPI sub 100 RPI teams. So tough road test all the way in Florida. I mean, they're going to be there early because obviously they're going to play Stetson in a couple midweeks just so that they're there. But I would expect coming off that series win over Arizona, and with both UCF men's and women's basketball basically probably being done, unless UCF makes some run through Kansas City and nobody get offended. I think UCF fans should be ripped and roaring and there at that field. Like I don't see a reason UCF fans shouldn't be at that softball series this weekend. Excited because of what UCF. Look, there's nothing gets a fan base excited more than big marquee wins and fans show up. Now you got to deliver on Friday, or they'll stop. They won't show up for Saturday and Sunday. But I think UCF fans will show up. I think they'll, and so I'm going to take UCF 2-1 in this one.
Eric, do you think that UCF could sweep?
I'm broadcasting. I'm abstaining from picking. I'm an objective broadcaster now.
Attaboy.
I knew that was coming out of your mouth.
Tune in, baby. Tune in next week, this weekend.
Text us your opinion, and we'll just keep it to ourselves. The other series this weekend, Oklahoma State, as we mentioned, hosting Houston. The pitching question that you've raised, Eric, is why, as much as I want to say OSU sweeps, and they should, because Houston's pitching isn't very good, I'm real tempted to take OSU 2-1 here because Houston can hit. And if you get in a situation on Saturday where you throw and Coots has a bad game, or maybe they start Aycock, and we've seen her, she'll hit an inning or two where she's solid, and then she kind of things seem to fall apart. And I at this point, I'll believe Riley Crandall is going to see the circle again for Oklahoma State when I see her in the circle. So, OSU should sweep this series. They should. It's not going to completely shock me if Houston steals one in Stillwater.
I'll be surprised. That place is tough to win a game. I mean, I think the numbers back it up. I mean, Oklahoma State's one of the toughest places to play. I think Oklahoma State's won like 90% of their home games there. That's a tough team to go in there and win. I'm going to take Oklahoma State to win all three.
Do I have to pick now?
Yeah, come on.
Oh.
Unless you're broadcasting it, then you don't have to.
No. I'll pick Oklahoma State to win all three as well. I'm impressed with Houston, but I'm more impressed with Oklahoma State. And man, it's hard to play in Stillwater for sure. For sure.
The stadium, the back seats are installed. OSU's played 2 games at home so far this season. A game against Tulsa and a game against Drake. This is the first real home games for fans to be. They will be there.
It'll be popping. Stillwater fans know how to come out to softball games.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So they're probably on the edge of their seat. They probably have been clawing and waiting for a game.
If I lived closer or didn't have 3 small children,
you'd be there all 3 days.
I'd be there. At least one. Again, it's hard to go for a 3-game series when you live 5.5 hours away, then you gotta like go anyways. The other two this weekend, Arizona hosting Utah. Arizona should sweep that one. Tough weekend for Utah up in Idaho. It's just a tough season for Utah. Period. It was a young team and they are struggling across the board. Arizona is at home again, and I have a feeling they might take out some frustrations on Utah this weekend series. The other one is Baylor hosting Texas Tech. It's not the best. It's not the best weekend. That's no offense to Arizona State UCF. It's the easy number one. I think we get our first sweeps this weekend in Big 12 softball play.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech Baylor normally would be like, ooh, this be the marquee, but Baylor, I'm with you, Leah. I thought when Baylor came from behind and won that first game, Govan tied it up with the home run and they win it extra. I'm like, maybe this is the turning point for Baylor in the season, because Orem had thrown in that game. She threw pretty well, but Kansas just took it to them. And I think still so many questions there with Baylor. I'm going to go Texas Tech. Could Baylor win a game? Yes, because they're well coached.
Yeah.
But you got to pitch against Texas Tech to have a shot. And I don't know if they can.
Now, what if Baylor what if this is their turning point weekend? What if they win 2? This could totally change their whole season. But I'm still going to go Texas Tech.
What a tease there.
What a tease. I'm still going to go Texas Tech 2. I think Baylor can take 1. So 2-1. Philip?
Oh man. I'll take Arizona sweep. I think Texas Tech probably sweeps as well.
Where's the series again?
It's in Waco, but so is
and the pressure is on Baylor,
right?
Because you you got first 6 at home. If you let's say go 1-5,
which is what they did last year, isn't it?
Well, but the difference was last year they got swept at Kansas. They got swept at Oklahoma. I'm talking like this would be at home.
Yeah,
that's a big hole to dig yourself out of when you all these road series ahead.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
It would be a surprise to see Baylor win this series. Again, Riasetta was awesome against Oklahoma State.
That's the game you got to win if you're Baylor. That's the game.
Which is likely going to be Saturday.
Yeah.
So if you're Baylor, can you? I would lean on Texas Tech sweeping this one. I just would. It wouldn't shock me if Baylor won one. I think I'd just lean Texas Tech. I think it's just an off year for Baylor this year, and then I don't know. It's tough. All right. Our interview is coming up next. I keep not saying the name because I haven't recorded it yet at the time of recording this, and if I say the name, it won't happen. So I've already had
You're
one
like
that didn't
me,
work
then.
out.
You're superstitious like me.
We have a rule here at the 1012 podcast. You don't mention things that you want to happen.
For those that don't know, I group text with Leah and Philip, and last week I had scheduled to have Ruby Malin, but I didn't tell them. I'm like, I got a big 12 guest coming up, but I didn't say. I want to.
Right.
They asked me who it is. I'm like, let me just make sure I record it first, then I'll tell you. So I'm glad you understood why I was that paranoid.
No. I can text people, but I cannot put it on the pod.
You and me both.
If I do, and look,
yeah.
It will no, because immediately I'd have to go and cut all mention of that out because it wouldn't work out. We wouldn't have a guest. But guest coming up next. You'll know who it is because her name will be in the title and in the show notes. But I'm not going to say it here because I'm not going to jinx myself. So do yourself a favor, listen to In the Circle podcast with Eric. Watch all the Big 12 softball this weekend. I know y'all going to be watching a lot of basketball as well. Absolutely. Leah, follow her TikTok. Just go find it. She's great on there. Check out all the work she does with Cyclone Fanatic as well. 1012network.com. Check out Charlie Hustle. Leave us a review. Yada, 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 yada. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to do for Selection Sunday stuff. I don't really want to go live because it's going to be 2,000 immediate reaction shows, and I don't want to just be another one. So we'll figure it out. But y'all enjoy the softball. We'll talk to you next week. Coming off easily one of the best series wins that Texas Tech has had in a long time, we are very excited to welcome to the show for the first time Alexa Langeliers of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Alexa, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. I love getting players on. Y'all are so much fun and exciting, and you offer such great insight when talking about college softball programs. And look, Texas Tech, I mean, they were a story heading into the season. They just continue to be one as this season progresses. And so I want to start there. I mean, it's been a great start to the season for Texas Tech. I mean, you get the series win over Oklahoma State last weekend. We'll talk more about it in a minute. You've got wins over Texas A&M. Big in-state rivalry. Like it's been a good start for you guys. How do you feel like the season has gone up to this point?
Personally, I believe we have a lot of room to grow. I think for the program right now, I think we're off to like a really great start, but I know that we can perform a lot better. I think we should have took the series, and I think we should have won the second game against A&M. And I think we've also had a couple losses that we shouldn't have had. But I think right now, like the losses that we have had have really just made us more mature on the field. And Coach Glass will talk about that all the time. Like sometimes you have to have those bad losses to realize like, hey, you're not where you need to be or where you want to be. And I think we're in a good spot right now mentally. And I think that's the most important aspect.
Yeah, look, the worst loss you could have is not taking away a valuable lesson when those losses occur. It's the same thing I always try and teach my kids of like, look, the worst thing you can do is not learning from a mistake. Like sometimes that's often worse than the mistake itself. And so like, where do you feel like you guys have really taken away from some of those disappointments so far this season, like Idaho State loss or the, giving up the game against North Texas? I mean, there's some games that are entirely understandable, but losses like those have got to be frustrating. So what do you feel like you personally and as a team you guys have taken away from those to help you improve?
I think personally, I think we got comfortable in those games. I think, especially like in the UNT game, I think we just got comfortable with our lead and we didn't want to finish the game. Like that's a game we easily should have run rolled, And I guess in the Idaho State game, I don't think we came out ready to play. I personally, like it took me a minute to like really kind of wake up. It was an early game. That's not an excuse, but I think like we weren't really locked in for the Idaho State game, and I think that's what really got us. And I think growing from that is like it doesn't matter what time the game is. It doesn't matter what you've done that day, whether you're exhausted or not. Like you have to go out and be ready to play regardless. And if you're not, you need to tell the coach.
This is a team that there's a lot of experience on this roster, but you guys are a very new team. Not just that you have a new head coach in Jerry Glasgow, but that you have players from Louisiana, from Stanford, from Washington who have been at Texas Tech already. And so you kind of have this melting pot of players from across the country. How do you feel like, and I talked to Glasgow before the season and he just was kind of like, where do you feel like this team is? And he says, he didn't really know until he actually got on the field and started playing. How do you feel like this team has come together with so many different pieces from so many different players and backgrounds?
I honestly, like, it's almost seamless. Like, I've never been on a team that's had this much, like, connectedness. Like, we're very much like a giant family. And I think we're all new. There was only 3 returners, I believe. And I think we're still working out some of the kinks, but I think right now, like, we're very just like cohesive and like we know like we have each other's back at this point. So
That's great. That's what you want to hear. That's what you want. Look, you guys, like I said, got the big win over Oklahoma State. Won the doubleheader on Friday before losing the game on Sunday. It's still a big series win for Texas Tech to pick up some quad one wins. That's a great start to Big 12 play to put yourself in a 2-1 spot where everyone's got a loss in Big 12 play at this point. So to be sitting there tied atop the standings at 2-1's got to feel at least pretty good for you guys. How do you have you guys already gone past it? We're sitting here on Wednesday. It's been a few days since the series. How do you guys feel after that series? What was the vibe in the room come Monday?
Ooh, I think we were all a little disappointed by how we performed on Sunday, but I think it was really good. Like, it was a good feeling to know that like we've already taken one series, and it was a huge one for us. Like, Oklahoma State's not an easy opponent, and I think just being able to come out and say like, hey, we have a winning record in conference play right now is like a huge thing for us. And I think going into this next series, it's going to be more motivation, especially with how we lost on Sunday. I think we're going to come out hungry to take the whole series this time.
Fans absolutely showed up this past
Mm-hmm.
weekend, which is great to see. And look, Texas Tech's got a great fan base. There's a ton of people. They will show up, especially they're supportive no matter what, but especially when a team is having success, they are showing up. What was that like to be able to be in that environment this weekend and just have that many Texas Tech fans there rowdy and excited and cheering you guys on?
Oh, it was so amazing. Like, I don't even have words for it. Like, you can feel the energy on the field. And coming from Louisiana, which had a huge fan base in softball, like, it's completely different. Like, the fan base that was at Louisiana was a bit older, so they're not as like rowdy, and like they don't get into games as much as like how the new Tech fans did. And I think that has like really elevated our gameplay. Like, I think we wanted to put on a show for them.
Ah, man, that's awesome. I have not been out there yet, and it's on my list to do. But like when you get softball fans that are into softball and know softball and are excited and rowdy, man, it's a very, very fun environment. That's one of the things I love about softball. Like baseball is great, but baseball doesn't get to have the like personality that softball does. You know,
Mhm.
the team down there after a home run, ready to welcome the player home, and crazy antics during interviews on TV, and then the fans get to feed off of that kind of stuff and bring their own energy. And it's so much fun. It's so great to see, and I love seeing it at Texas Tech for you guys this season.
Mhm.
Okay, so I gotta ask about your performance this weekend.
Oh
Really
gosh.
nice job at the plate. 4 for 7, 3 runs, 3 RBI, including the home run on Sunday against Ruby Malin. Like, how do you feel like you performed this weekend?
I think I just did my job. I think I executed when I needed to, and I think there's actually a couple places I should have executed that I didn't. But it's a good feeling just being able to like pick up my team. You know, like first innings are always important. Doesn't matter if you're home or visitor, but just being able to get on the board in that first inning really sets the tone for the game. And I think being in a spot to be able to do that for my team is huge, and I love doing it. So.
Yeah, it's set the tone early is always good.
Mhm.
Your teammate Bailey Lindemuth took the home Big 12 Player of the Week this week. Tell me a little bit about her and when she found out and y'all found out, was there a little bit of razzing and celebration?
So Monday was actually our off day, so we didn't see her till Tuesday, but she was definitely feeling the love of being the player of the week. And I think she's one of those players that just deserves it. You know, like she puts in the work. She's such a great person to be around. Like she's going to push you to be a better version of yourself. And I think at least this week, nobody deserved it more. I think we on our team, we did have a couple contenders, but I think her performance was so clutch and she came up in big spots and just got it done.
Oh yeah, look, I think you could have been a contender for that award. I think Texas Tech had a lot of players between Texas Tech and then UCF's big series win over Arizona. There were two teams with a lot of options to pull from
Oh yeah.
for absolutely great weekends. Speaking of teammates, obviously a lot of focus on Texas Tech this season is on Nyjah Kennedy coming in
Mhm.
from Stanford. Reigning National Player of the Year. She's been awesome in the circles. She's been awesome when she's got to swing the bat, and really big for you guys in key moments. What is she like? What's it like playing with her and having her as a teammate?
It is so much fun. I've never been around a pitcher who has been so focused, but also so, I don't want to say emotional because it's not necessarily the right term, but she's like, she gets into it, you know, like you can feel her presence when you're out there, and it's like amazing to be around and to like witness. And she is one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker on the team. And it's like her mindset is just completely different than anything I've ever seen. And it's so amazing to just like be around, like, because it causes you to like elevate your own game just to like try and match hers. And I think she's just one of those players, like, you would do pretty much anything just to like have like 30 minutes with her to like have a conversation, you know?
That's awesome. Everyone I've talked to has had glowing reviews of her. We're going to try and get her on the show at some point, but I mean, it's awesome to hear. Okay. So you are from Keller, Texas originally, spent your first 3 years at Louisiana with Coach Glasgow, and then transferred to Texas Tech with Coach Glasgow. But I have to ask, how much of your decision when you entered the portal and chose Texas Tech was about Coach Glasgow, and how much was what other factors were involved in you decided to coming from Louisiana to Texas Tech this year?
When I entered the portal, I knew I wanted to come back to Texas. I wasn't entirely sure where exactly I was going to land in Texas, but I knew I wanted to come home. And I wasn't actually sure that Glasgow was going to pick me up because he had said something about not wanting any seniors. But I mean, he texted me as soon as I hit the portal and he was like, "Hey, you want to come up for a visit?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." So I guess like as soon as like I knew that he wanted me, like there was no other school for me. I love playing for him. So
What is your relationship with him like? What is it about him that just was like, nah, as soon as I got the text, I'm going where he's going?
I guess like the best way for me to explain it is like he's like my grandpa in a sense. Like he's like he's so funny, and like he also like he knows when to push you, and he also knows when to be more supportive. Like he knows when like you need somebody to be getting onto you, like you're not holding yourself to a higher standard and like you need to, versus like when you're really just going through it and you need somebody to just be like your rock. And I think he does a really good job of that. And I don't know, I've never been able to see myself playing for a different coach.
So obviously you're from Texas, but I mean, Keller, Lubbock, not exactly the same. West Texas is its own planet sometimes. How are you enjoying your time in Lubbock so far?
Actually, I've always really liked Lubbock. I came on a visit to Tech I think my junior year of high school, and I loved it out here. And it's actually funny because my dad works at the hospital right across the street.
Oh, cool.
So, like he's here at least once a week, sometimes more. So I guess like it's just like really, even though it's technically not Keller, it feels like home in a sense.
That's awesome. No, that's great. Like I don't fault anyone for wanting to go and have an opportunity when they do to play closer to home, closer to friends and family. Like it's a great experience to get to have. And so that's awesome. And that your dad's right there has got to be neat. I assume he's been able to make it out to at least one game so far.
Yeah, he's been at every single one so far. The only one that he's missing is actually the South Carolina series. So
okay, all right. Well, that's on the road, so that's
yeah.
fine. Okay, well, Alexa, you have been awesome. I'm gonna wrap this up the same way we do every week with our guests. We got a collection of random questions that we're gonna throw at you. A little bit of quick fire here. All right, number one, what is your walk-up song?
I have 3 walk-up songs. So my Friday walk-up song,
okay,
yeah, they did like different genres for each day. So my Friday walk-up song is "Wow" by Post Malone. My Saturday walk-up song is "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue, and my Sunday walk-up song is "Who Let the Dogs Out" by, I believe, the Afro Men.
Okay. Three walk-up songs. Man, I was excited for one. Peanut butter jelly. What is your jelly of choice?
Strawberry.
Strawberry jelly. Okay.
Got to be strawberry.
That's good. That's a good choice. Obviously, we just had daylight savings time, so now it's bright early it's dark early and it's bright late versus dark early or bright early. I'm mixing this up. The question is, which version do you prefer? Sun up early and sundown early, or dark morning, light evening?
Dark morning, light evening. I am very much a night owl. So
okay. So what we've got right now is what you like. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know that I agree, but that's okay. What is your game day ritual?
Ooh, I gotta be honest, I don't really have one.
Okay.
I guess the only thing that I would really consider a ritual is like I always have chapstick in my pocket.
Okay. Hey, whatever works. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't.
Is it like, but if it's not there, like, do you feel weird about not having chapstick? Is that?
Oh, 100%. Like I
Okay,
feel like
very good.
I'm not going to perform well if I don't have my chapstick. So.
Okay, so if we can get Alexa an NIL deal with a chapstick company, that would be perfect for you. Perfect for you.
It'd be greatly appreciated.
So I'll see what we can do. Would you rather? Since you're not a pitcher, I'll tweak this. Usually, it's perfect game or hit a walk-off home run. In your case, would you rather hit a walk-off home run or snag a walk-off home run at the wall that gives you a win?
Oh, probably. I prefer defense, so I'm gonna go with the snag.
Okay, you'd rather rob a home run. That's okay.
I would rather rob the home run, especially because I'm not an outfielder. So I feel like that'd be really impressive if I did that.
Okay, that's good. No, that's fun. Like I like it. Okay, all right. Last one. A little bit about your team. Who is the best trash talker on the team this season?
Demi Elder. She is literally the funniest person ever. And some of the stuff she was saying at OSU was so funny. Like, I don't know. We were dying in the dugout when she would say it. So I'm going to have to go with Demi. Yeah.
Okay.
Anya's pretty good and so is Maya, but I'm going to go with Demi.
I gotta make a list of all these answers, and then I just need to get like an episode with all the best trash talkers in the Big 12 on. That's what I gotta do. Alexa, you have been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Congrats again on your weekend series win this weekend. Good luck this weekend against Baylor and to the Texas Tech Raiders the rest of the season. I'm excited to see what you all do. I've got very high expectations and high hopes for you guys this season, and I think it's going to be a great Big 12 race.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly.